Hi guys, so what is the best way to improve your artistic ability? And the answer is just consistent practice. I know it's a lot easier said than done when you're really not feeling motivated, or if you've just come home from a really long day at work and you're feeling tired. It can be hard to bring yourself to get your sketchbook out. But I've put together a few tips that really help me when I'm not feeling in the mood, so hopefully you'll find them helpful. Tip number 1 is to not put too much pressure on yourself. Do not feel like you have to create pages and pages of perfect sketches. Perfection is the last thing you should be thinking about in your daily practice. The important thing is just to get started. Don't think too much about what you're drawing, just start drawing, and most of the time, 9 times out of 10, your creative juices will get flowing and what you want to draw will just come to you. This is for you, so don't feel like it has to be anything. It can be whatever you want it to be. Tip number 2 sort of contradicts tip number 1, but it is to set goals for yourself. I know you might be thinking that totally contradicts the no pressure rule that I said was rule number 1. But when I say set goals for yourself, I mean achievable, reachable goals that you can do without stress. So something like the challenge that I'm doing, which is to fill a sketchbook in 6 weeks, something that I really feel is completely doable for me, and it's something that when I'm really not feeling like sketching, like I kind of say to myself, well, Sydney, you said you were going to fill the sketchbook, you're never going to fill it if you just lounge in bed all day. The goals could be to complete a zine or a series that you're working on, or just conscious practice, which means that if you know that you're bad at drawing hands or bad at drawing lips, then make that your goal to improve on that. Tip number 3 is to get comfortable. You absolutely do not have to sit up at your desk when you're drawing. Like, I've filled so many sketchbook pages just lounging around in bed with my pyjamas on, drinking a cup of tea. So just relax, do whatever's comfortable, get yourself some snacks, put the TV on, whatever. Tip number 4 is that it's okay to stay in your comfort zone, sometimes. It's really important if you're going to grow as an artist to get out of your comfort zone and try new things, but if you're really having one of those blah days and you can't be bothered to draw, just draw the things that you like drawing, draw the things that you're used to drawing. Just stay in your comfort zone because you are still going to benefit from that rather than doing nothing at all. You're still getting the practice in, and that's better than nothing. Tip number 5 is to allot a specific amount of time to practice, and that way you're not thinking about other things that you should be doing because this time is completely dedicated to your art and your practice. This might not work for everyone because some people need to be in a certain mood when they're drawing or creating, and sitting down and at a lot of time just doesn't work for them, but I find it quite helpful to say, okay, for this hour I'm going to sit down and draw and nothing else is going to get in the way. Tip number 6 is to think about your environment. Are you comfortable in the room you're in? Is the lighting okay? Are there any distracting smells? Is it quiet enough for you? Have you got the right music playing? I personally have my room set up exactly how I want it. I have my things where I need them to be. I have some fairy lights set up. I have some plants in my room which I find really helpful. And I play a lot of audiobooks when I'm writing. I feel like it's quite helpful because it distracts the part of my brain that is like kind of conscious thoughts, and then it just lets the creative part of my mind just have free reign, and then I like look back after about a couple hours and it's like, oh, I've created this whole painting and I didn't even remember it, which is quite nice. So my next tip is to get back to basics, which just kind of means looking at the essential elements of art and doing exercises for that, like line, form, tone, stuff like that. So you could focus on figure studies or doing just kind of exercises like mark making, doing life drawing, stuff like that. And I think the reason that's helpful is because it kind of takes the pressure away from like creating something original, thinking about what you're making, thinking about being creative and all that. It's literally just doing these exercises to kind of get the basics right. Okay, so tip number 8, if you really can't be bothered to do any finished sketches, any finished paintings or drawings, then just do some other art related things. This could be looking for references, it could be reflecting on your work, which is quite an important exercise. I had to do that a lot in college when I did my art foundation. You basically had to reflect on everything, kind of how you feel about your work, what's successful about it, what challenges you had, how you overcame those challenges. Like basically kind of thinking about, you don't have to record it like you would in school, but kind of it's a good exercise to make notes and really think about your work and why you're doing it. You could also do thumbnails, which is like a really helpful way to kind of get your ideas down on paper without thinking too much about detail. Doodling is also a really helpful exercise. It kind of, because you're not really consciously doing it, you could be doing it while you're watching TV or whatever. It's like more about kind of loosening yourself up. It's a really good exercise to do before you're sketching, before you do any proper full sketches. It just gets your ideas, kind of gets your gears going, gets the cobwebs out. It's a great exercise. So if you really can't be bothered to do any full sketches, do some stuff around it, some necessary things like looking for references. It's not necessarily like actual artwork, but it is kind of necessary. You need to do it at some point. My 9th tip is to take a break. Seems pretty counterintuitive as this is a video about how to motivate yourself to create more, but when you're like grinding really hard and not coming out with anything, the best thing you can do is take a break. You just kind of, when you're focusing on something too long, you get tunnel vision, you can't really think, you have no perspective about what you're doing. So some people just put so much pressure on themselves to work all the time 24/7 practicing that they can't actually practice effectively because they're working too hard. So take a break, take a walk. If you can't bring yourself to do something completely unrelated to art, then maybe you could watch other people's videos or read some books that are related or watch some artistic films, but definitely make sure that you've had enough sleep, that you've taken a walk, that you've been outside, that you've had enough to eat and that you've had a good rest and that you're actually mentally capable of continuing working, because overwork really actually just ruin your work in the end. So make sure you're taking care of yourselves. And my final and 10th tip is to really change your mindset about how you're looking at your art, and don't get frustrated that you're not improving straight away. A lot of people like put so much pressure on any one drawing. You really need to think about each sketch, each drawing, each study as one step in a journey that is your self-development as an artist. And you can't expect every sketch to be perfect first time. You can't expect that when you first start you're just going to improve like that. It's a really slow process. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So really try and manage your expectations and try to be patient. That's the biggest advice I can give you. Try to be patient with yourself. When you look back, you will have found you've improved tremendously. So just be patient with yourself. Go easy on yourself. Give yourself a break. And that's all the advice I have for you guys. I really hope you found this helpful, and if you did, please let me know. And if you have any advice for me, I would love to hear it. Please let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in another video.